Hey, my conscious money creators. I'm super excited. Today, I'm going to make a video for you about one of my favorite topics, which is why I went vegan 8 years ago. So I'll start by just telling you a little bit about my story, why I personally went vegan, and then I'm going to share why I think it's an essential component to leveling up in life and in business and with your finances. So a little bit about me. Some of you know, some of you don't. I'm a single mom. I have two sons, and my older son, who's now 12, was diagnosed with autism when he was a toddler. And when I first discovered what autism was, I went into full on research mode. I was studying till 3 in the morning every night on Yahoo groups, researching all the latest leading edge, cutting edge interventions, nutritional interventions, you name it, I was looking it up. And so I tried a lot of different diets for him. I tried, the keto, paleo, gut and psychology diet, body ecology diet. We tried a lot of stuff, doesn't really matter. But ultimately, I landed on a vegan diet. And the reason was because autism is a chronic illness, and that can be a whole other video. But I did a lot of research seeing that a plant-based diet could be used to treat cancer and a lot of other chronic illnesses. So I said, if it can treat these illnesses and diseases, it could probably have a positive impact for autism. So the whole family went vegan. I was actually pregnant with my second son at the time, so he's been vegan since birth. Was I pregnant or he was a baby? One or the other, I can't remember. But he's been vegan pretty much his entire life, and ever since we made the change, I just had so many positive benefits that I could never go back. In fact, those of you who know me well know that the thought of eating meat or dairy is so nauseating to me. It's the most unappealing thing to me in the world. It's disgusting. But I didn't always start that way. So I can empathize with those of you who are still eating meat and cheese and think that those things are delicious, because it was a transition. So I want to share with you some of the reasons that I think are the most compelling for why I believe a vegan diet is an essential part of leveling up in life and in business. So the first is that health is actually wealth. And that's sort of a cliche statement we hear a lot. But in actuality, your health is going to positively benefit your pocketbook. So there was actually a study done in the US that the average elderly person spends over $18,000 per year in healthcare. And the average financial advisors recommend that the elder population sets aside 20% of their income for out-of-pocket medical expenses. Meanwhile, Harvard Medical School cites tons of studies for why a plant-based whole foods diet can prevent so many different illnesses and diseases. So for example, they cited a study that says that it's been linked with a 23% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes, been linked with a 35% lower risk of prostate cancer. And it's been linked, they said that a plant-based diet could prevent approximately 11 million deaths per year globally. Not to mention it could sustainably produce enough food for the planet's growing population without further damage to the environment, which I'll talk about at my third key point. So end of the day, eating healthier now is going to save you a lot of money in the long run, right? If you're averaging $18,000 a year in your elder years, that's almost $400,000 that could be saved, that you could use to live your life joyfully with your family, and obviously elongate your years and help you enjoy the legacy that you create with your family and be around for them. So that's a super crucial component. A lot of people use the excuse, oh, well, I can't afford that. That's for rich people. That's for fancy people. Well, eating fruits and vegetables is a lot cheaper than going to the supermarket and buying a steak or beef or meat of any kind. That's a lot pricier. So maybe you're talking about alternative mock meats or whatever, but I'm just an advocate for a whole foods plant-based diet, which means fruits and veggies essentially. So the second key point is leveling yourself up in your consciousness, in your clarity of thinking, in your mindset. And one of the biggest benefits that I found personally when I went vegan was mental clarity. And a lot of ancient civilizations and religions have referenced what is referred to as sort of like the meridian system. You know, ancient Eastern philosophers refer it to as the chakra system. In Kabbalah, Kabbalistic works, you'll hear it referred to as the Sephirot. I mean, of course, there's variations in every culture. I'm not trying to say everything's the same, but they're referencing this concept that we have energy centers. So we have 7 meridians in our body. We have the crown, we have the third eye, we have the throat, we have the heart, we have the solar plexus, and we also have the root. I think I got all 7, might be missing one. And each of these epicenters or these meridians are linked to that part of the body, both physically but also energetically. So for example, the throat chakra, you know, yes, it's physically correlated with the throat, but it's also correlated with expression and communication. So if your chakras are blocked, your meridians are blocked, then it will cause an imbalance or chaos in your life. And it can be attributed, a lot of the symptoms that people feel in life, whether it's like brain fog or recurring infections, whether that be physiological or psychological, can be tied back to a blockage in your chakras. And I found for me personally that when I went on a plant-based diet, I just felt energetically like I had this clear passageway of my chakras, and especially my crown. And the crown chakra is the one that's correlated with a higher power, with, you know, whether you want to call it God, infinite intelligence, source, all that is, whatever you want to refer to it, the light. That's my throat chakra. I felt that was cleared up. It was clearer passageway, and I just felt like I was able to connect more easily. I could meditate more easily. I felt like I had like clearer downloads, inspired thoughts, visions for the future, more optimistic outlook. Overall, things that we need in business, right? And in life is just feeling stronger clarity and maximum focus and efficiency and higher bouts of energy. And a really good way to think about this. So one of the authors that I've read in the past is a guy by the name of Gabriel Cousens. And he writes in the introduction to one of his books that we literally, if everything is energy, we are what we eat, right? So if we're consuming fruits and vegetables and living things, we're injecting into our cells living live energy, right? And so of course we're going to feel, you know, vitalized. But on the contrary, if we're eating animal protein, right, which is a dead animal, let's think about what that is. Energetically, that is a dead carcass that's decomposing, and it's decomposing in your intestines, right? So you're literally ingesting death. So think about, just from an energetic standpoint, and this is a little woo, but that's okay, because you guys know I'm a little woo. Energetically, the difference in that energy of ingesting that, putting that into your body, do you think that's really giving way to like mental clarity and clarity of thought and connection to the higher power? It's you're eating death, right? So I'm not coming from passing judgment. I once upon a time also ate meat, so I'm totally empathetic. I remember back in the day when I thought it was delicious and I thought it smelled good. Now the thought of it's absolutely revolting to me, but I can identify with those of you who still associate it as something pleasurable that would be hard to give up. So I'm not coming from a judgment standpoint. And honestly, if I hadn't experienced everything that I experienced with my son, I wouldn't even be considering these things. I would have never been introduced to these things. So I'm hoping at the very least that this video can inspire and provide you some food for thought, pun intended, to think twice about your actions before you get sick or before someone you love gets sick, because so many things are treatable and preventable through a plant-based diet. Okay, the last one, number 3, part of leveling up with a plant-based diet is the ethics. Okay, so here I am bringing in a little morality, and that's okay, because my channel is geared towards conscious creators, people who are aware and awake and tuned in with life and are deliberately creating their reality, and not just sheep's kind of, you know, mindlessly following the pack. right? So I want to bring several key points here when it talks as it relates to the ethical thing to do. So we've all been sort of brainwashed from birth that murdering animals for our pleasure is just totally normal. And so we don't even think twice about it. But if you actually were to watch any documentaries or do any research and understand what's going on, in the entire system of factory farms and the whole agricultural system, these animals are literally intelligent, gentle, sentient creatures that feel emotion and like fear and loss and connection with their young. And they're, from the moment they're born, their lot is suffering and fear and death, and they deserve a dignified life. And we would never consider doing the things that are done to these animals to human beings, but yet for animals it's like, oh, their lives don't matter, it's fine. And I think being a conscious creator means being ethical, doing the right thing. And just as we would never tolerate murdering people, it's, to me, unacceptable to tolerate murdering any sentient conscious being for such a such a simple vain thing as our pleasure, right? So that's one. But also when it comes to ethics, it's also better for the planet to be plant-based. So it would combat hunger. So it's actually estimated that 700 million tons of food that are consumed by livestock could be there for human consumption, and it would eradicate human hunger, global hunger. So think about all of the resources that are required to produce all of these livestock for our consumption. It's an exorbitant amount of resources. Also water, it would conserve water. It takes 100 to 200 times more water to raise 1 pound of beef than it does to raise a pound of plant foods. 100 to 200 times more water. And we understand that, that's a natural resource that's scarce on our planet. And yet we're kind of feeding into the system mindlessly, where we could easily have more food and more water for humans if we weren't feeding into it. So there are so many cases and arguments that could be made for this. I want to keep this video somewhat short. It's probably pretty long already. But if it inspires just one of you to reconsider your lifestyle and how it pertains to just leveling up in life and in business, then I've done my job, and I'm so happy to be a resource to any of you thinking about making a transition to a plant-based diet. There's some really great stuff online. You can watch Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy. You can watch What the Health. That's another really good one. The Game Changer just came out last year. That one was pretty cool, showing how it's actually best for peak performance for athletes, for professional athletes, to consume a plant-based diet. For books, you can read the China Study. Also, really great speech online is called The Best Speech You'll Ever Hear by Gary Yourofsky. It's about an hour long. It's a little bit old, but he makes a lot of really great points. So I hope those can offer you some resources if you're considering this as a lifestyle. I think what we put in our body absolutely 100% correlates to our performance in business, in life, in our mindset, leveling up, personally developing, growing, and just always being the best versions of ourselves and holding ourselves to the highest standards as well as human beings. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions about this transition, or just any feedback about if you're making the switch and what you've noticed. I'd love to hear it. So thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful day.